Hey everyone, it's Josie Belay here. In today's episode, I am going to talk you through about how my brain kind of processes things and how I come up with formulations. A lot of you guys in the salon and on social media, the number one question you guys ask me is, what is the formula? So today I'm going to show you how my brain works. Today's inspo is going to be this very beautiful, muted, purpley, but has a little tinge of pink rose in it. And I'll show you how we get there. When your client comes in and she has a natural depth of a level 6, and then you look at this rose, what I like to do sometimes is take a picture of my client's hair and the inspo and put it together, and then turn that saturation down on your camera or on your phone, and then you can kind of see how dark this rose is compared to your client's hair, and how much lighter you have to lift your client's hair. So what we know off the back of our hand is, because this is a beautiful muted pastel color, putting this on a natural depth of a level 6, that's not going to show. We're going to need to pre-lighten your client's hair, probably until you get to, I would say, a solid level 10 or past a level 9 for sure. You really want that yellow underlying pigment to be exposed before you deposit this beautiful pastel muted, I would say muted purple, onto that. So I hope you guys are following along and that makes sense so far. So when we take a look at this rose, we see different tones and different levels. You can see that there's purple, there's a little bit of pink, but you can also tell that it's not super vibrant. It's a little muted. So in my mind, I already know that the number after that dash, after that first number, is going to need to be something ashy to help mute down the vibrant of the purple and the pink that we're seeing. Now I can easily do this with, let's say, a clear, or using a pastelifier or something to tone it a level up so that it's a little bit more pastel-y, but that's just going to dilute down the pigment. It's not going to give you that muted tone that we see here. I've already pre-mixed some test strands so that I could visually see what it would look like and if it looks close to our inspiration. So already you can tell, what am I missing here? I think I'm missing a little bit of red because there's a lot of violet going on. So I use Schwarzkopf Professional a lot in my salon, and I think that we would need to add more of a red into our violet to kind of give us more of this pinkish tone. So in Schwarzkopf Professional, that is a 0-88. Alrighty, now my favorite part, let's get swatching. Okay, so this is exactly what I would do if I had a client in my salon and I'm mixing a fashion color. I'll have 3 extensions or maybe more, whatever you want to do, put aside so that while my client has the lightener on her head and she's processing, I'm getting creative and I'm doing test strands so that visually I know what I need to mix for her end result. Now remember, that's always going to be determined by what your client lifts to. And because we're creating a pastel, very muted, very light color, we need to lift her to that banana 9, that banana 10 level. So I have 3 strands here. One is kind of sitting at a level 8, 9, and then one strand is sitting at for sure a level 10. So what I'm going to do first is determine the shades that we need to customize this formulation. So again, because it's something light, automatically in my head, I know we need a light tone. So mine is going to be 9.5-1. If you guys are using another line that's not Schwarzkopf Professional, that would be like a level 10, something very, very light. And that's gonna be your main color. And then your second color is going to depend on what color you see in here. So my eye, I see like a purpley, violet, pinkish hue. Some may see a little bit more violet, some may see a little bit more red, but for me, it's like a beautiful combination of both. So I'm going to be using the Schwarzkopf Professional Booster 0-89. That is going to be our main direction. After the dash will be red, followed by violet. So the violet will have less than the red in there. And this will be my second tone. And then, like I said earlier, my secret sauce is 8-11. This is what I use to create all those beautiful muted tones that you see on my Instagram at Josie Valet. And this will kind of give us that dusty muted color so that it's not so vibrant. So the first thing I'm going to do is mix a 9.5-1 in my Agora Royal line. If you're using Vibrance, it's pretty much the same thing because Agora Vibrance and Agora Royale are so true to tone. The only difference is one is going to be more sheer. So if you want something more pastel-y, I would go for my Agora Vibrance. If you want something with more pigment, I would do the Agora Royale, the permanent. So same thing if you're not using Schwarzkopf Professional. If you want something, if you want the tones to be more prominent and dominant, I would go with the permanent. If you want it to be more sheer and almost like a tinted lip gloss, then I would go for something that is more demi. All right, so here we go. We're gonna start mixing 9.5-1. And I'm going to do about, let's do 20 grams for this one because it's our most prominent color. So 20 grams of 9.5-1 into the bowl. And you always want to make sure you're using a scale when you're creating, well, all the time use a scale, but when I'm creating beautiful colors like this, I always have a scale, and then I keep a marker, a Sharpie close by to write down the formula so that when I'm formulating her, I remember what amount of what I used, and then you can always adjust it to how she lifts. All right, so we got 20 grams of 9.5-1. That's our level 9 Cendré, which is a blue violet. Again, if you're not using Schwarzkopf, you can do like a level 10 with a violet or blue direction under that, or after the dash. And now I'm going to add my booster, my 0-89, which is prominently red, followed by my red, or sorry, by my violet undertone, or my violet tone direction. And then with this, because it's a booster and it's super strong, you don't need a lot. So for 20 grams, I'm going to use about, let's say, we'll start off with 5 grams. So this is why I like to have different test strands, because you can see visually how it deposits, and then you can always add more of your lightness so to control that, the level. Does that make sense? Is everyone following along? I know sometimes coloring and mixing formulations can be a little scary, but trust me, it's not. As long as you have test strands and you have an idea of where you're going and where you came from, it's super easy. So we're gonna do 5 grams of this, making it 25 grams in total. Okay, and then always I have my level 8-99, which is going to be like a level 8, but with my double Cendré blue violet direction. This is going to help me mute it out and create that beautiful dusty color, so that pink, that red violet isn't so like a fashion color, it's not too vibrant. So I'm going to double what I put in my booster with my 8-11. So I did 5 grams, now I'm going to add 10 grams of 8-11. Okay, and it's always nice to have a base of where to start, you know, because sometimes you don't know how much of what to put in, and you won't until you have your first strand done. And then from there, that's when you're gonna build on. If you need to say you need to add more red, or you need to add more lightness, or you need to add more depth, that's where your first strand is going to tell you what direction to go in. So because I'm using Agora Royal Permanent Colors, I'm going to be using 10 volume developer with that. So the ratio is 1:1. I use 35 grams of color. Now I'm going to use 35 grams of developer, making it total of 35 and 35. So now we're gonna mix it. Make sure you're mixing well, and that's why I always say have a nice, clean, sturdy whisk, because sometimes the wires are off and they're not hanging right, and I don't know, I just always like clean things. It makes life just so much simpler. Okay, so after And always when I mix, I know it's really weird, but you always want to make sure you get all those corners in too, because sometimes you have boosters or whatever extra, you know, your formula is hiding in there. So I want to make sure that's in there nicely. And then you want a nice clean brush. And then you're just going to apply from the tip of the extension all the way down to the end. Important thing is to always make sure you get both sides so you can fully saturate your extension. This one is a little sticky because it still had some leftover tape on it. That's why I love keeping my clients' extensions. I don't like throwing them out after because they're great for swatches. If you don't have swatches or extensions, you can always order them off Amazon. They sell them on there as well. And you always want to have a wide toothbrush to make sure you're just, again, getting that color to fully saturate on both sides. Just comb through. Oh, she's a little rough, this one. Okay. Perfect. So after you put her down, I always make sure I just do a nice comb through, and then I do one more color. Now, I would let this process the full like 10 to 15, I would say 10 to 15 minutes, because that'll kind of give you an initial idea of where to go. So we'll come back to this guy, and we're gonna keep this full, because now what I like to do is after you see what your first strand kind of oxidizes to, you can add more lightness or more depth depending on where you need to go. So we're just gonna set this guy aside. Now we're gonna move on to our second formulation, which is going to be, again, our prominent color, our lightest color in Schwarzkopf. That's going to be 9.5-1, which is their pastel series. So it's perfect for what we're making. Again, if you're not a Schwarzkopf professional user, that would be like a level 9, but make sure it's a really pastel level 9 or a level 10 in other color lines. And this is going to be your prominent. So I'm going to do only 10 grams of this one because we don't need a whole lot. We're doing test strands. And again, make sure you write down what you mix so that you know what to mix after your client is done processing. Okay, and then I'm only going to do 1 gram this time of the 0-88. 0-88 has become one of my favorite colors actually to use in my formulations. It's super pretty, even with my platinum blondes. If you follow me on Josie Valet on Instagram, you'll see one of my favorite formulas on there that include red. I know, it sounds crazy. All right, now we're gonna mix in our secret sauce. So we did 1 gram of 0-8. I'm probably gonna add, I'm gonna do 5 grams this time because I want it to be a very muted pink, giving me a total of 16 grams. So we're gonna do equal parts of developer, 16 grams of our developer. Making sure you really get that booster separated with your whisk, because there's nothing worse than seeing those little red spots on your colors, especially when you're doing fashion colors like this. Okay, nice, a new clean brush. And we're just gonna go again root to ends. Okay. And we're gonna put this bowl again to the side so that if you see something you like or don't like, you wanna add or take away, your base is here. Right, so now I'm gonna take a look at the first one I've done. It's been about 5-10 minutes since time has passed by. And when I do this, I always make sure I have a towel on hand, just so that I'm kind of just giving it a little squish so we can see what it looks like. And look at that. It's already depositing so nice, so beautifully. But I do find it, to me, that's the perfect depth that I'm seeing in this rose. But I do also would like a lighter version of itself here. So what I'm going to do, it's super simple, is I'm just going to grab that first formula. I'm going to grab another bowl. I'm going to add some of that formulation into here. And I think I wanted it a little bit lighter, so I'm going to add more of my 9.5-1. I'm just gonna add 10 grams to get it a little bit lighter. but that also means I need to add 10 more grams of developer. And then we're gonna mix. And this will be, I'm gonna try and make our lightness with this formula here. Give it a good stir, break up all those tones so they can harmonize together and create a beautiful color. All right. So again, we're just gonna apply it here, root to end, and then we're gonna let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes, because then you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like and what you need to do, or what you want to add or not add or take away from. Okay, so we're just gonna let these formulate, and then I'll show you guys the finished results. All right, so I have let these test strands sit for 15 minutes, and this is the colors that we have come up with. Aren't they beautiful? So they're quite similar to our beautiful rose right here. If I wanted to play with it more, I can get more of the colors in there. But I think in a rose, you know, it's 3D, so you have your dark, your light, and then your lightest color. And then we have the same thing here, our dark, our mid, and then our lightest to give us that three-dimensional shape. Now, this was our starting level. Remember, it was 20 grams of 9.5-1 with 5 grams of 0-89, which is a red violet booster. And then I did 10 grams of a level 8- double cendre with with a blue violet direction. So this is what it gave me. To me, that's still really bright. It's not quite the rose what we're looking for. So then after I let it process, develop for 10 minutes, I kind of got to see what it would look like. So I diluted it down. I took the same formula, but I added 10 more grams of the 9.5-1, my lightest color, to it to kind of dilute it down and make it a less bright version of itself. So that to me is a little bit closer to what we're seeing in this rose here. If you wanted to play around a little bit more, you know, you could even dilute it down a little bit more or add a little bit more 0-88, which is the red concentrate, the booster to it. And then my last formulation, which I really love right here. To me, this looks more muted. It looks very beautiful. It's pretty close to this rose. This is my 10 grams of 9.5-1, my lightest level, with 1 gram of 0-88, my pink concentrate, with 10 grams of a level 8-cendre or an ash blue violet, to give us this very beautiful muted color. So I love them. I'm just in love with them. Even this brighter one here, this is kind of the depth, you know, what you could see in the inside of the rose. So remember, the key thing is to know where you're going when you're formulating, number one. Number two, how light you need to lift your client. When I'm doing pastel or muted tones like this, I'm always lifting a shade lighter than my desired tone. So on these swatches, I used a level 8 or 9, but on this one, I put her on a level 10. So keep that also in mind. And then knowing which tone direction you want to go. Is it more red? Is it more violet? Is it the combination of both? You know, and this is where you can really play around with your test strands to see where you need to go. So I hope this video was helpful. If you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe below. If you want to see other formulations, you can head over to my Instagram at Josie Belay. Until next time.